Hi guys, this is Caitlin, and I'm going to talk to you about Cellulose Nitrate film today. So let's get rolling. So let's start with a very short history of the film. So it was introduced initially for still photography in 1889 by the Eastman Kodak Company. It was a replacement for the glass plate negatives that had been in use up until that time. And the motion picture format was introduced in the 1890s after the introduction of the motion picture camera. Production was ceased in 1952 due to cellulose nitrates film's noted flammability. But backstock was used until it was depleted, so it is possible to find film shot after 1952 on cellulose nitrate. Now let's move on to the manufacturer. And I will say right now that I am not a chemist or a chemical engineer, so this is just basically a summary of what I found online. And if you can find yourself a more layperson explanation, that's great. But it was produced using cotton linters, which were a byproduct of the cotton spinning industry, and it reacted with a bunch of chemicals, and then this chemical mix was dissolved and then poured into a bed and allowed to solidify, and this created a thin plastic film that could then be used for cinematography. So now, why do we want to preserve cellulose nitrate? Well, there's a whole bunch of early 20th century history on cellulose nitrate film. Early movies, the very first motion picture film ever was filmed on cellulose nitrate. It was used for doing documentaries, scientific recordings. People would record immigrant communities, small towns, all kinds of stuff on cellulose nitrate. So it provides a very interesting visual record of America in the early 1900s. So, and it is deteriorating faster than it can be reformatted and preserved. So there's definitely a time limit on getting this stuff, on saving at least the information that's on there. Now, I will say a lot of commercial films were shot on cellulose nitrate, but they have the great advantage of being reformatted on a regular basis because they are in demand by a large segment of the population. So we don't have to worry about these guys disappearing on us. But some of the one-offs, the historical society that recorded an event at, in their town or whatever, that might disappear. So now let's move on to the issues with preserving cellulose nitrate film, shall we? Now, the biggest issue with cellulose nitrate film is that it is very, very flammable. Even in good condition, this stuff will, once it catches fire, it will burn like nobody's business. And the more deteriorated it gets, the more easily it is set on fire. Deteriorated cellulose nitrate film can ignite at 120 degrees Fahrenheit. So even a strong light source might ignite it. So even if you just want to examine cellulose nitrate film, you should be very, very careful with your handling. It's also prone to vinegar syndrome, which creates acetic acid, which causes the film to become brittle and shrink and warp, as you can see on the bottom images here. And it also emits off gases that speed up deterioration of the film and can also damage other archival material. So you really want to store this stuff away from other items in your archive. Now, how do you go about handling and preserving this stuff? Well, if you're going to be handling any cellulose nitrate film, be gentle. It can be brittle. And you definitely want to wear protective gear, gloves, goggles, maybe even a ventilator, because the off gases can pose a health hazard as well as damage archival material. It can lead to nausea, headaches, lung irritation, eye irritation. So you want to wear your protective gear and handle it in a well-ventilated area. And again, keep it away from heat sources, you want to store it in a ventilated film can to let the off gases dissipate. ISO recommends storing at no more than 36 degrees Fahrenheit and between 30 and 40% relative humidity to keep it in good shape. Now, this can get expensive for smaller archives, and it can also pose an insurance risk for them. So most institutions that I see recommend that you reformat the information that's on the films onto a safer one, whether that's a digital recording, another type of film, what have you. But that's what they recommend, especially for used copies, so it can be shown, and then just having either put in long-term off-site storage, which again is expensive, or having the film safely disposed of, because again, the flammability issues require that it be handled properly for disposal. And also another nice feature is that one of the byproducts of cellulose nitrate combustion is oxygen, so most standard fire suppression systems aren't going to be effective. So let's move on to my bibliography, and I'm going to end it here and wish you guys a good day, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation.